if you're a loop maker, don't use Content ID. If you're a beat maker and if you license my beat, don't use Content ID. You can say that all day. But if a person doesn't understand these systems, they're going to say, oh, wait, you're saying I can't profit? No. Peace, what's going down? It's a Music Entrepreneur Club. My name is DJ Payne One. I'm here with a very rushed Dame Ritter and Aaron Knight with a solid background. What's going down, everyone?
What up? What up? I'm just getting back from the Music Business Conference. I know Aaron is still out there. I got a chance to actually meet Aaron in person. So that was really dope. I got a chance to meet a few people. Obviously, most excited to meet Aaron in person. But I think, especially since the pandemic, a lot of people, actually came in person to this conference and just seeing. It's always interesting just seeing how tall people are, how short people are in real life, because you never really know when you see them in a box on Zoom.
Aaron's like 6'2", 6'3".
David, I thought Dame was short. Dame is not short.
I'm average. I'm an average height.
No, all the shit Dame talks about hooping. Yeah, Dame can't be short.
I heard Kayvon before I saw him. So Kayvon, who works at Genius and does a lot of stuff for artists online, so he has a very distinct voice. So I heard him before I saw him. So seeing him was dope. I've met Dan Runcie in person before, but got a chance to see him. And then Carl Folks, I never met him in person, but got a chance to see him. So I didn't attend any of the panels, but definitely got a chance to network with quite a few folks. And then Beatstars had a meetup on Tuesday night that was well attended. So got to see a lot of the Beatstars community. And then the next day, yesterday, we had a private studio session where we privately invited some of the top sellers on Beatstars and some of the more well-known producers in Nashville to actually cook up some things and submit for some placement opportunities. So that was dope. So yeah, I like Nashville. Nashville's a cool city. Lots of good restaurants. And just the way it's designed, it looks pretty dope. So hopefully I'll be back. Aaron, you're still out there. What do you have? What are you accomplishing today?
Today, I'm actually speaking on a panel, which is the whole reason I'm out here. So that's super tight. I've always wanted to come out. And the first time I'm here, I'm speaking.
What's the topic?
Of course, last night, I started losing my voice because I was at an event yelling over the speakers. And I was like, I got to go home because my voice. But yeah, I'm speaking today about the prison system and the relationship with the music industry, which is crazy timely because of what's going on with Gunna and Thug right now. And they're two fellow ATLians as well. So I'm hoping that we get a ton of good footage and we can utilize it for other things. But I'm just excited to be out here. It's been dope meeting people in the flesh and knocking down some doors, getting some deals done. So I always love the in-person stuff. Yeah,
I wish I knew more about the Gunna and Young Thug thing, because that would be an interesting topic to cover on the MEC maybe next week. But it looks all bad just from the tweets and from the things I've been saying. It's just, but I don't know too much about the situation. Aaron, I don't know if you do, if you wanted to weigh in or just give people a heads up on what's happening. But basically, a lot of Atlanta rappers might be going to jail for a very long time.
I don't know enough to weigh in, but yeah, I don't want to share my thoughts. I just think it's super sad what's going on and how it's happening and how their art is being weaponized against them. So, yeah, but I don't have a ton of things to say. And I'm not justifying anything. I just think the system is super sick, especially the way that RICO happens. It's like you have to let people commit crimes in order to stack the case against them. So I think the whole thing is super sick.
Right. Lots of social media and lyric evidence. Some of it is real evidence. If you're putting stuff in on social media, but the music stuff is a whole nother conversation, but maybe we'll tackle that another time. So today, I know I wanted to talk about, and I think Aaron wanted to talk about the manager-artist relationship and what that looks like, because it can be different. I don't think there is, like, some artists have a manager that does a lot of assistant duties, and that might be the case in the early days for a lot of managers, right? Because you're wearing many different hats in the early stages, but as you have more success, you know, hopefully the managers is able to just do more more. I can't even call it traditional, because the manager role has evolved over the years, but less administrative duties and get to the core function of what a manager is, where then I think an artist still looks at the manager as kind of an assistant. Aaron, I know you've seen that. What do you think about that, the artist management dynamic and assistant responsibilities?
I think that when you establish a precedence, typically good managers fulfill a ton of roles, especially when they first are starting out. So that precedence is established that, oh, my manager does everything. So the expectation is that my manager is required to do everything. Mm-hmm. And therefore, if my manager stops doing these things, they are no longer, one, worthy of their management percentage, but two, are now trying to take advantage of me. That seems to be the train of thought. It's, I don't know shit about this industry, but somebody believes in me. The person believing in them is like, we're going to do whatever it takes to get this done, because I know once we get to a certain point, we're going to win. Once we start getting to a certain point, manager backs off because that's not their job. Hey, things are moving on its own. You should see what I'm doing. So I would say part of it is ignorance on both sides. As a great manager, I have realized that a lack of education on my artist side makes them believe. So that's ignorant on my end to think that they understand what I'm doing, because I'm here putting in the work. So that's one thing that I had to learn is like, hey, and I'm still learning this. Hey, I did do those things. That is not included in my percentage. The reason I did those things is because I believe in this. I'm trying to keep the ball rolling. There's nobody to fulfill this role, so I'm wearing a ton of hats. In due time, somebody should take this role. I'm still going to take my percentage because I got the ball rolling. You know, so I think that conversation preemptively could save a ton of managers a lot of heartache. Unfortunately, a lot of us will have that conversation when it gets to the time that we need to back off a little bit, and then it's misconstrued as malintent or taking advantage of. But I have to tell artists all the time, we are your managers. We are not business partners. Because I co-manage with my business partner, so typically it's a we, but also I solely manage. And yeah, that's something for me. It's like, I'm not your business partner. I have been working as such, but I'm not here to serve that purpose anymore. If you want me to, you have to pay me accordingly. And that's not to be crazy, but it's like, you want me to devote probably more time or equal time and effort into your business, but I'm only making, the crazy thing is people in the MEC comments still say 15%. In what world? But I'm only making 25 to 30%. And even then, a lot of artists are like, that's an aggressive percent. If I'm making 30% of what you make, or even 20%, let's say 20 or 25%, because the commenters are going to go crazy. If I'm making 20 or 25%, I'm still going to be doing more work than that, but I'm not going to do a 50-50 split with you. There's no way. There's no way that I'm going to continuously pour my resources, energy, time, my know-how, which creates efficiency because it's taking me less time. There's no way I'm pouring all of that into you and you're giving me just 25%. I will inject resources. I will spend time, but my time you're not going to get all of my time and energy for 25%. You just won't. Build your own dreams. I co-own. I own 51% of that. It's getting all of my time and energy because I know as I invest, my business partner is investing, and we're going to see exponential growth. But what artists tend to want is the manager to put in 70, 80%, only take out 20%, and then they reap the rewards and live in the afterglow. And occasionally they'll thank their manager for being by their side. And I'm not here for it.
Right.
Yeah, from my perspective, the problem was always catching an artist who's talented and knowing that a talented artist, I mean, it could be anyone. I use the term artist loosely: producer, dancer, rappers, songwriter, whoever. Catching them early on, managing them, and knowing they don't know about the music business. You could even give them 3 to 5 more years and they still probably won't know about the music business because most people don't. Most people are 1 foot in, 1 foot out for decades and they never learn shit. And now they're on Twitter in our comment section talking about, you know, that you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. It's the sad reality, and that makes the position of a manager all the more difficult and tenuous because you're going to invest no matter what if you believe in the artist, if it comes to that point. So you're either investing in someone who in all likelihood you know is going to turn their back on you, or you're just not doing it and then you're not managing. So what do? You're kind of stuck. You're really kind of stuck.
And you remember we talked, I mean, this was an important point that I made, and we talked about probably a couple of years ago now, you know, just the fact that early days, like what Aaron was saying, you know, we wear so many different hats. And as you have success and relinquish some of those responsibilities, like the communication just has to be on point. But, you know, because the same thing happened to me, you know, with Hobson, but like I've never been a manager before, so I wouldn't have known to like make sure I communicated that. And actually in my position, I don't even think it would have mattered, you know, how good the communication was. But that's why it's so important for people to listen to this podcast, because I would have, I just thought like, oh, he understands. Like in the beginning, I'm driving, I'm selling merch, I'm a fake security guard, I'm doing my management responsibilities. I'm really doing everything to make this thing move outside of making the music. You know, of course, he's going to understand that as we get bigger, I'm not going to be on the road all the time. You know, I'm not going to be at the merch booth, but that wasn't the case. And maybe he knew that and he just wanted to be an ass, which I think is part of it too. But like, you just don't know what you don't know. And if you're a young manager, unless somebody gives you a heads up that communication needs to be on point, you need to let the artist know, like, hey, when we get going, this is not going to be this way, right? You're going to hire an assistant, you're going to hire a tour manager, you're going to hire a marketing person, and, you know, we'll have a full team. But, you know, you got to have that conversation and continue to have that conversation, because he relinquished a lot of his responsibilities too as we got bigger, right? Because creatively, he was shooting his own videos in the beginning. Obviously, as we got more money, he wasn't shooting his own videos. He wasn't even editing them all because we would hire somebody to help with the edits. So everybody relinquished his responsibilities as you have more success, as you should, because you put specific people in those roles. You know, but as soon as shit went south, it was like, oh, Dame wasn't on the road, so why is he still getting a percentage? It's like it's really stupid, but you got to have that communication for your relationship.
Fighting this fucking stupid ass battle on all fronts. I mean, why does a manager deserve 20% if he's not massaging my feet? Why does the producer deserve publishing if they're not giving me oral sex every morning? It's just like there are all these really stupid caveats that idiots put on. I'm sorry, like this is a frustrating conversation because it's just this ongoing display of hubris and ignorance, and that's a deadly combination. And you see that killing damn near every relationship you see in the industry being killed is a combination of those two factors. Somebody who just doesn't know any better combined with them thinking that they know everything. That's volatility to the max, and it just kills a relationship, and it makes a person really undesirable to work with. I've been through the same. Thankfully, it wasn't on the Dame Funk Volume level, but had it been on the Dame Funk Volume level, I would have had some money to as like a nice severance package, which I didn't. But it was like, I was in the similar position where I'm doing booking, I'm producing, I'm mixing, I'm doing graphic design, I'm doing coordination, I'm driving, I'm handling logistics on top of doing managerial stuff that the artist himself wasn't even allowing me to do. The artist himself was going kind of behind my back and trying to get little deals here and there that would consistently fail because they couldn't manage themselves. And then when it came down to having the conversation about what our duties were, it was, oh, you're a slave owner. You're this and that. You just want me to change. It's just like, I kind of toss my hands up. It's not just one or two artists. I talk to other people that are having the same experience. And then you go online and we have these episodes and people are like, yeah, fuck managers. This manager's not cooking me breakfast. Why do they think they're entitled to 15%? That motherfucker should get 5% until I blow up. And then maybe I'll give them a couple, I'll give them 6 figures and tell them kiss my ass. Cause I read on something that Joyner Lucas' manager built him a house. And I read that Cardi B's manager slept under her couch for the first 5 years just to pay his dues. And it's just like, all right, go do it yourself then. Find one of these amazing managers that you read about on social media, because that all of that stuff is true.
But the crazy thing is that the amazing managers are the ones getting shit on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's the bad managers who I would like to believe it's the bad managers who kind of make up the managerial majority. And the good managers are the ones that are a dime a dozen. People get these good managers. I'm being one. Like, I'm a great manager and I'm super confident in that because I care about people. You can't teach somebody how to care. You can talk about care, but caring is something that requires an element of selflessness. Then to care so much about somebody's career that you devote your own career to their well-being, that's a different level of sacrifice. That's more than marriage. I tell my artists that, because at least marriage, there's some sort of gratification or mutuality, hopefully. Because it's marriage, you're going to be there. I don't know, Dame, I'm not married yet, but I'm hoping that it's reciprocal. But starting out as a manager, it's never reciprocal because you have to create the byproducts that you want to sell. You have to create the brand. And then if you're already an established manager and you come help out an artist, there's still no mutuality because you have the resources. So either you're out hustling or you're out resourced, but it's never a reciprocal relationship if you have a good manager. The issue is that artists think that they are talent and talent is innumerable, but they don't know that. They think every talent is a dime a dozen, so they're the talent, and it makes no sense because here's what I will say. You can throw a rock and hit a talented artist. It is very difficult to find honest and motivated people who are then invested in your personal journey. You may find somebody who's honest, but they may not be super motivated. You might find somebody who's motivated, but they may not be invested in your journey. Like that triangle, super rare. Imagine striking gold and then having the audacity to piss that person off and tell them that they're not worth what they're asking, or that they don't get it, or that they just need to work and not ask any questions, or I can tell you crazy things that artists have said to me. And I'm to the point now that it doesn't bother me, but I'm not going to stay where I'm not celebrated, not even unwelcome, not even tolerated. Like, you have to be excited for me to be there, and acting as such with the way that you compensate me and the way that you speak to me and the way that you respond to me. If those things aren't right, I'm not bothered to leave because I know I'm the value. But a lot of managers, when they first start, feel like their value is predicated on their proximity to a success story. It's not. If you're good and if you're consistent, you're always going to keep things afloat. You know, like, when I first heard about music biz, I was working in the rock industry. I no longer work with those rock bands, anything like that. I am now speaking here. I don't even know if those dudes work in music anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're consistent, you'll win regardless. So yeah, managers, don't kill yourself over an artist who isn't, and this is not saying be lazy, but if the artist doesn't value you, there's so many other people begging for somebody who just cares. They don't even need you to be skilled. You can learn the skills, just care. So I don't know, it's weird. I think artists' egos sometimes can't see, they're very short-sighted. I think egos in general, but artists' egos are so short-sighted. They think that, especially when they're hot, everybody wants to work with me or everybody's going to stick around. But that's the problem. Everybody will stick around if you're hot. Everybody's not going to create the heat with you, though.
Yeah. I know we got to get to the next topic. There were a few things I wanted to respond to. One, just when Payne said artists going behind your back to negotiate a deal. That's the most annoying thing. Well, it's not the most annoying thing, but that's very annoying as a manager. Is very disrespectful, and it sheds light on the whole team to whoever you're negotiating with, right? Like, if you're having two different conversations, or if somebody you're negotiating with knows that there's some disorganization amongst your team, some unprofessionalism amongst your team, that reflects really poorly on you as an artist and the entire team. So I've had to deal with that a couple of times, thinking that they could negotiate a better deal. Come to find out, they just really don't understand what exactly we were doing and all the different elements that go into, whether it's a sponsorship, whether it's a show. And he was like, he eventually was honest. He was like, damn, I tried to do this. I don't know what I'm doing here. Take over this conversation. But at that point, it's messy and it looks unprofessional. So if you're going to do that, if you don't have any trust in your manager, just sever the relationship. Like, just sever the relationship. Just say, hey, it's not working out, and let everybody go their separate ways. It's unfortunate that good people have terrible experiences in this industry and we chase them out, right? Because we're left with people that don't have integrity, people that don't have the passion, right? Because I've seen just so many good people get chased out of the industry, especially in a manager role. Because, to be honest with you, like, if you're a smart individual and you're hungry, there's very few people that want to be managers long term, because it's just not worth it. Like, the money's not there. I didn't go to school to be a manager, right? I didn't never set out to be a manager. So shitting on managers or having bad relationships with people that are good and chasing them out of the industry makes it even harder to find somebody that's solid. And maybe next episode we'll go in on some of the managers, because it's not like managers are perfect. There's a lot of people operating that don't know what they're talking about, and aren't leading artists in the right directions, because I want to make sure we balance it out. But
yep. It's like people complaining, we're all the good men, we're all the good women, we're all the good people with relationships, and then you say, well, every time you find one, you're an asshole to them because you're toxic. And artists are doing the same thing. I can't find a good manager to save my life. It's because you're toxic. It's because you want them to give you their entire life for virtually no compensation, and you want to reap benefits that you yourself don't even understand. And that toxicity is everywhere. And it's normalized. It's normalized in relationships too, and you find so much. Social media can be such a magnifier for toxicity. I mean, this is an amazing parallel between relationships, healthy relationships, and healthy management artist relationships where you go on social media and people will find a way to create an echo chamber for why them being toxic in a romantic relationship is a-okay, with all the memes and TikToks and, it's the same thing. You say, yeah, I cheated on my girl, I cheated on my man because, he was just way too, I don't know, available, or just, stupid reasons. And people are like, yeah, fuck him. Hot girl summer. Or like with manager relationships, it's the same thing. We post something and it's like, let's talk about managers and what they deserve. You get this echo chamber of artists who aren't even making money to begin with. The people that are going online talking about, I'm worth more than this person in a romantic relationship. No, they're not. You need to go to therapy. The artists that are up here talking about they deserve the world, if you did, you would have it already. You would have created it for yourself.
Exactly.
Toxic people don't create happiness for themselves. They demand that others create it for them, which is impossible. Whether it's happiness in the form of a fulfilling relationship or a prosperous music career. If you can't create that for yourself to any degree, no one else can create it for you. And if there's a pattern of you killing relationships, whether they're personal or professional, you're probably the problem.
Yeah. I promise you 110% that all the guys from Funk Volume would love to have me back in that position of being a manager, like that in a hot second. Maybe not me, maybe not me specifically, because we've had, just some words were exchanged that, but in terms of somebody doing what I did for them, all of them would love to have somebody back, because they didn't understand even something as small as the level of accessibility, right? Like they pretty much could hit me 24/7 and I would pick up the call. They're finding out that's not very normal with a lot of managers, right? Like I made myself very accessible, too accessible. That's probably another conversation. Just other mistakes that I've made just in general with relationships. Like you always, when you in a new relationship, you kind of set the tone, right? Like, so if I even watch how quickly I respond to emails these days, like I could respond to this email really fast, but I don't want to set that expectation, because then every email they're going to be like, why didn't you get back to me? I was like, well, you just emailed me yesterday. Well, if I started emailing people back as soon as they hit me, that I set that expectation, now it's kind of locked in and they'll get pissed if it breaks from the norm. But that's a whole other, anyway, we can get to the Content ID stuff. Payne, let's
talk about this again. So in 2018, I looked this up. YouTube invested $100 million in their Content ID system, and they paid over $3 billion in Content ID royalties, which means they generated billions themselves beyond the $3 billion, obviously. This is a big industry. I don't understand why people were confused about why Content ID is problematic. But again, there's a lot of ignorance out there. So let me reiterate. This is regarding the whole royalty-free sample thing that we talked about. Because there were people saying, "Oh, of course you're getting Content ID claim. The sample's royalty-free." It's like you're not even hearing yourself enough to evaluate the ignorance that you're spewing forth. Royalty-free samples can be used commercially by anyone with a valid license. So for example, if you have a Splice membership, you can use their loops in your beats for your films too, for whatever. You can profit from that usage. That's the license agreement. So if I make a beat with a loop that I got from Splice, I can profit from it with every single royalty stream imaginable legally. This has been around for a long time. It didn't start with Splice. People were, when I sent that tweet out about using a loop from Splice and getting a Content ID claim, people were blaming Splice. They're like, sue Splice. Like, I'm getting a moron migraine. So let's talk about that. Another producer can use the same loop from Splice and register it with a Content ID system, and then the Content ID system will classify them as the owner of every part of the beat, including the royalty-free sample. That's the problem. So if I upload my beat to YouTube or TikTok and it contains that same royalty-free sample, I'll either get my content removed or the other producer will get all of the money generated from that platform. Why is that a problem? I love TikTok was the worst, honestly, in terms of comments, because people were saying, yeah, it's royalty free, you're getting a copyright claim, and then of course every time it's, well, NFTs will solve the problem. The problem is I'm getting copyright claims against me by somebody who doesn't own the copyright. Copyright law is federal, right? So the Content ID system is literally facilitating copyright infringement. The Content ID system is facilitating a federal law being broken. So here's what I don't understand. Why is this allowed? The federal government's allowing it to happen. Well, I guess they have other stupider things to focus on. Why is there no class action lawsuit though? There are a huge company, Splice isn't a small company. There's Looperman, there's TrackLib, there's Output, there's Drumbroker, and then there are thousands of individual sample creators. Why could there be a class action lawsuit on the horizon? And I did some research on class action lawsuits in a similar vein to this one. And it is happening already, not with sample makers yet. But last month, Facebook got hit with a class action complaint. And I'll read it. Meta Platforms Incorporated, Facebook, is facing a class complaint in California federal court for allegedly profiting from an epidemic of advertising scams that steal images of copyrighted work by independent artists and small businesses to sell counterfeit products on Facebook. The 67-page complaint alleged that Facebook knowingly assists and encourages counterfeiters on the platform through powerful ad tools and lax enforcement. We know what they're talking about, right? Counterfeiters will take images of art pieces from a copyright owner's website or e-commerce store and use the image in scam ads that are uploaded to Facebook's ad platform, the complaint said. Yeah, so that's a facilitation of copyright infringement. So I would even say the Content ID is more egregious because it's more direct. It's more direct, and you're not just violating one person's rights, you're violating that person's rights and the company from which they legally licensed a royalty-free sample. So you would think it would be a more open and shut case, right?
Hey, what would you say, like, if we can't change Content ID as it is now, what would you say is the best practice when using a beat that wasn't 100% produced by you, made by you? Just nobody use Content ID. And where should we let people know, like, hey, how many times, where and how should we reiterate, like, do not use Content ID if you make a beat with this sample or loop? Like, what would be the best practice?
The issue with Content ID is the ignorance. People don't understand the music business. They don't understand royalty streams. They don't understand intellectual property law. And so when this subject comes up, if you can tell somebody and make it very clear. If you're a loop maker, don't use Content ID. If you're a beat maker and if you license my beat, don't use Content ID. You can say that all day. But if a person doesn't understand these systems, they're going to say, oh, wait, you're saying I can't profit? No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying you can't use this very specific system that's probably not going to be paying you any degree of substantial money to begin with. So just don't use it. But people get reactive, like, oh, you're trying to restrict me. No, you actually signed an agreement that said, like, you can't do, this is a violation of copyright law, federal copyright law. You just can't do it. You just can't do it. It shouldn't even be a discussion. But because people are ignorant, they don't understand the conversation. They don't understand it. So in a perfect, or not even a perfect world, in a less ignorant world, the solution would just be for us as creators to make it clear what the reasons behind our anti-Content ID stance is. We could just, it's just messaging. It could be as simple as messaging. It could be as simple as on every beat seller's website, just a reminder about Content ID. It could be, every time you open up Splice, there's a reminder, or something. just or frequent reminders, frequent emails, whatever the case. Because at very least, if we can just get people to stop using the Content ID system, this will become much less of a problem. But as of right now, when I post something even discussing this, people just say the dumbest shit. It's, oh, well, Content ID, just use an NFT, just dispute it, just do this, do that. It's a systemic problem that facilitates breaking the federal law, and it hurts creatives. And if every creative understood that, because I think what it is some people think, well, if I just register it first, I'm good. One, that's not realistic. Two, it's going to affect you no matter what. People were saying, well, that's what happens when you lease beats. It affects people who don't lease beats. That's what happens when you sample. It affects people who don't sample. That's what happens when blah, just name a scenario. Content ID is a system, and it's problematic, and it's getting worse. And it doesn't matter for you now because it doesn't affect you now. But when it affects you, it's going to be a problem. So let's just agree to be somewhat unified on a problem that affects creatives in a negative way. Can we do that? It kind of seems like we can't. And the Content ID is a multi-billion-dollar operation. They could fix it if they wanted to. It's not one person sitting in a shed, typing on her computer, just sweating because, oh my God, she has to deal with it. It's a multi-billion-dollar system. What
would be the fix though? So what would we need them to do?
It would take a complete overhaul, in my opinion. I mean, if nothing else, there should be a system where they could whitelist certain things. Now that would put the onus on the person uploading the track. So if I upload a beat, right, I have to claim, I have to put in the metadata. This sample is from, such and such. Here's the melody, and the systems are sophisticated enough where they can parse through all that. I don't doubt that. Kanye West has a STEM system. Like, come on, Content ID, multi-billion-dollar, they can figure it out. And then if you're a recording artist and you license a beat, all the distributors have to do in the Content ID systems, all they have to do is account for licensing and collaboration. Hey, this beat was created by this person. Here's their channel, their YouTube channel URL, and here's their name. It's just metadata. And the Content ID system can automatically whitelist them. Hey, this person sang a hook. They might want to upload this to their social media. Don't copyright strike them. Don't remove their content. This is their name. Account for that in your system. That's all it would need to be.
Just like when you upload to your PRO, the producer uploads the same song as the artist and every collaborator. It shouldn't be complicated, but yet it's super complicated.
No, it sounds complicated. No, it definitely sounds complicated. Because if you made a sample or a loop, then and you want it in the Content ID system, so are we white labeling channels, or are we giving them a percentage? When they're,
I would be happy just with the whitelisting. Again, Content ID money isn't that serious for 98. It's the same with any royalty. We're talking about the majority DIY artists. Sometimes it matters, but with a royalty free sample, no, you're not getting anything from that because it's royalty free. But you shouldn't be claiming that you own something that you don't own. That's where the problem sets in. Actually, I'm trying to.
They probably don't even realize that. They probably think there's some people that are acting in a shady manner and they know better.
I want to talk about that because, and shout out to Consiglius for sending me this. This happened 2 years ago. I wish I had known about it because this would have made a great episode. Justin Bieber had a producer use a Splice sample for one of his singles. Now there was another artist named Asher Monroe who used the same Splice sample. So when the Justin Bieber song came out, he jumped on social media talking about Justin Bieber stole my style. Justin Bieber stole my melody. And so everyone's rallying behind him. This is the power of social media. Everyone's rallying behind him. Oh, you got to sue Justin Bieber, sue him. I can't, but who would do this to you? So then the creator of the Splice sample stepped in and said, yo, calm down. I made the sample. You didn't make that. It's a royalty-free sample. Anyone can use it. And the artist had the nerve to reply by saying, "Who are you?" So that's a scumbag. That's a real scum. And this is a big artist. He didn't even have the humility to delete the tweet. The tweet is still there. Still there. And you know, to actually claim that you own something that you didn't create to the point where you're disrespecting the actual creator publicly, and you're a bigger artist, you know, he has hundreds of thousands of followers. He's a bigger artist. That shows you what we're talking about. The hubris meets the ignorance. It's a deadly combination. And he looks like an asshole. But that hubris
I feel like that's intentional though too, to be like,
oh yeah.
Like you can't be that dumb to chase Justin Bieber. That's like an attention grabber. And then your ego is feeling good because people are behind you. So you say, "Who are you?" Anybody, people look so stupid. I don't even want to comment on that. But yeah, artists are dumb.
That's the thing. You know, it's that, you know, and this is how a lot of people think. And then you think, well, what's the solution? Unfortunately, we need people to be on board. We need people to say, yeah, you're right. That kind of stuff is wrong. Or, you know what? I don't use royalty-free samples, but this person over here does. And that's all right with me. So I'm just, as a creator, I understand we're all part of the same ecosystem. I'm just going to, you know, support that. Instead of writing, you know, a snide comment saying, well, that's why I don't sample. Why y'all can't be original? That's not helpful. Because when you have an issue, you want people to help you, and we're all a part of the same ecosystem. So if we're not on the same page, we have very little influence over the systems that affect our lives, our lives, our careers, our livelihoods. But when we're on one accord, we can probably do something that changes the paradigm. So it's really up to us, and that's kind of a scary thought, but it's always been like that.
So, message of the day: unless you create something that's 100% original, do not use Content ID. Is that fair?
Yeah, please don't use Content ID. Please, and it will come back to get you. So don't use it. Just until it changes. It's not a healthy system for us. It's a corporate thing. You know, we don't like the labels taking ownership of what we do. We don't like the labels controlling our livelihood. All you're doing is facilitating single ownership, just like you don't want the labels owning your masters and controlling your career. Why are you doing it to your peers? That's what Content ID is. Don't do it.
I was just to say, but even if it is completely original, Content ID can screw you up. That's what we talked about. So
exactly.
It's like the whole thing is messed up.
Wow.
Yeah, so let's not support it. But that being said, Dame, I know you got to catch a flight to what exotic destination are you going to?
No, I don't have to catch a flight. I just have to hop into into a call.
Oh, I thought you were going to a beach, an exotic beach.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay, well, shout out to everyone tuned in. We're gonna announce some MEC changes shortly. I know we keep teasing that out, but it's a big change, so take some time. Until then, stay up to date with what we're doing. Just text MEC to the number that Dame's about to give you, and we will alert you every time we go live.
Yep. Text MEC to 844-206-7800. We'll keep you guys posted on the changes that are coming. Again, it was really dope meeting people in person. Got a lot of great feedback on the podcast from folks in Nashville. So appreciate that, and we'll keep it going. All right, y'all. Peace.